Stop. You violated the law. You know, I feel like it's been a really hot minute since I've done a video like this where I'm standing up. I feel so mobile, so free. I feel like nothing can contain me. This border that you're looking at, this aspect ratio, means nothing to me. I choose to stay here. I choose to be this way. My name, if you don't know for some reason, is Chris Raygun, and welcome to another episode of Glasses Off. And today, I want to talk about something that I care very, very deeply about, and that is apathy. Lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. So I was scrolling through Twitter yesterday, as one does, and my curiosity was immediately piqued when I saw that South Park was trending for some reason. Now, I've never been like an avid South Park viewer necessarily. I have a great amount of respect for Matt Stone and Trey Parker, not just because of the Book of Mormon, which is fantastic, but because of how quickly they're able to write, animate, and get these South Park episodes out the door. I think the last time I checked up on what their work schedule was like, I think they turn out these episodes in like a week, 2 weeks. That's like remarkably impressive. That they're able to put out some of television's most iconic and remembered comedy in like a week's time is truly phenomenal. But my history with the show is a little wishy-washy. I've seen some of the more standout seasons. I've seen, I think, most, if not all, of the iconic standout episodes. But for the most part, I just tune in occasionally, have a good time, and go along on my merry way. So I am not a South Park expert at all. But nevertheless, I feel like I have to talk about it, because apparently South Park was trending yesterday because of this specific tweet. In retrospect, it seems impossible to overstate the cultural damage done by South Park, the show that portrayed earnestness as the only sin and taught that mockery is the ultimate inoculation against all criticism. There's actually like a metric fuck ton to unpack from this, and I think a lot of it is fairly interesting. Now, I personally have never really gotten this message out of the South Park episodes that I have seen. South Park, in my view, and I feel like in most people's view who have seen it, is a show that joyously and irreverently demonstrates that nothing is above mockery and nobody is above criticism. Not necessarily that mockery inoculates one from criticism. I don't think that's ever been the message of any single episode that I've seen. The very idea that it's impossible to overstate the damage that South Park has done to society is like very, I don't know, there's a very like hippity-hop music is ruining society, you know, like that kind of vibe. Like I feel it. I feel the same energy. It's just a phenomenal oversimplification of what is obviously a far more complicated amalgamation of things, which is ironically the very thing that this person is accusing South Park of doing. Now, while I do heavily disagree with this tweet, it's really the tweets below it and the replies and the community responses that I find the most out of touch. We're living among a generation of trolls who don't realize that Cartman is supposed to be a joke, not the hero. Are you okay?
I'm trying to reach deep inside for my power and then die.
You need to really stop.
Hey, I'm almost dying, look, wait.
These people realize that those, like, BuzzFeed quizzes that are like, oh, which South Park character are you, are just for shits and giggles, right? People aren't going, I'm so Cartman, don't fuck with me, as, like, a gesture of, like, endorsement or excitement. That's not, like, a thing. Cartman's friends all think he's a piece of shit, because he's literally a fat, slovenly, thin-skinned racist who gave a child AIDS and killed a kid's parents for making fun of him. He's the ultimate snowflake. He is the joke. And everybody gets that. It's ironically like so smug for this guy to be like, I know that Cartman is the joke, but nobody else does. As if it's like some insanely like highbrow realization, like, oh my god, you really have to have a high IQ to understand that Cartman's not the hero. Nobody thinks Cartman is the hero. And if they do, they're likely a 9th grader who is very edgy, who is going to grow out of it in like a year or two and cringe at himself. And look, I know the phrase nobody thinks blank is inherently false because statistically there's at least one human being on the earth who believes an incredibly incomprehensible and stupid thing, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Nobody thinks Cartman is the hero. This is a pretty good one. Underrated point taught a whole generation that caring about things is bullshit. And this is where the apathy angle comes in. South Park is not a show that makes fun of people for caring. It is a show that makes fun of people who pretend to care, aka everybody. Everybody is a target. Because let's be real for a moment, let's be like completely honest with ourselves as human beings, as woke people, as activists, as enlightened thinkers, or whatever you want to call yourself. If we all truly cared about the state we are in as a society, if we all truly cared about all of the things that we say we care about, we would all be vegans. We would all knit our own clothes. We would be antisocial Luddite hermits living in the mountains, because every single thing that we do in the first world is soaked in violence and criminality. The phones we use are all made in sweatshops with high suicide rates funded by companies that hide their revenue in offshore accounts to avoid paying their fair share of taxes. Our clothes, knitted by kindergartners working for pennies in toxic working conditions. Our food, processed by megacorporations who rape and slaughter livestock for our chicken McNuggets. Our fuel, stolen from war-torn countries that we intentionally plunge into civil unrest. But really caring about that requires far too much sacrifice. So instead, we cancel internet celebrities who have said the word here in the past, or complain about television shows that we find morally objectionable, because that's easy, and it allows us to feel morally superior without actually giving up any of the first world blood-fueled conveniences that we've grown ever so accustomed to. And look, guys, I'm right there with you, dude. And I know my PlayStation 5 is going to be manufactured in some of the most heinous conditions ever recorded. I know this for a fact. But you're out of your goddamn gourd if you think I'm going to miss out on God of War 2 just because of that. And giving up chicken is just completely out of the question. Fun fact, by the way, the only reason that the chicken has not gone extinct is because they're so delicious that we breed them at a very high rate to ensure that we don't run out of them. I don't know if that's true, but it feels true. And look, I truly get that it's really annoying to see kids and edgelords using the irreverent tone of a television show as an excuse to not care, or using a single facet of a television show as a cornerstone of their entire personality. I totally get that. I literally stopped watching anime because too many fucking awkward teenagers in my high school were doing fucking Naruto runs and doing fucking Naruto hand signs, and I cringed myself completely out of respect for an entire medium. And my god, don't even get me started on Rick and Morty right now.
Flip the pickle, Morty. The payoff here is huge. Check it out, Morty. I turned myself into a pickle.
Oh, what's so cool about that?
Who gives a shit, Morty? I'm Pickle Rick!
I can't even begin. So I get how a demographic can completely ruin a piece of media. With the amount of criminal shit that Elvis the Alien has digitally stapled onto my fucking prefrontal cortex, I'm surprised I like anything anymore. Honestly. But far more often than not, I feel like these TV shows aren't making people this way or teaching them these values. They're just drawing those already existing people in the same way that Doom drew in millions of players in the 90s, but also drew in the Columbine kids. Violent content doesn't make non-violent people violent, but violent people will probably be drawn to violent content. South Park didn't make an entire generation irreverent and careless. It attracted people who were already that way, among millions of other people who just thought the show was funny. I think, honestly, that the main reason that we feel so apathetic these days as a general culture, as a generation, is because we are constantly made to feel like our voices don't mean anything. Now, I don't really want to get political here, but I feel like politics yields the best examples of what I'm trying to convey here. The overwhelming majority of people in the United States do not want to be in the Middle East. This is a right-wing thing, this is a left-wing thing. Most people these days will tell you that they don't want to be warring with nations in the Middle East. The majority of us have wanted that for a decade now, and we're still there. What the fuck is that? A pedophile who had highly incriminating dirt on the most powerful people on this planet was full-on assassinated in a maximum security prison. All the tapes mysteriously vanished. The guards were randomly off duty. And everybody just forgot about it. Everybody knows that fishy shit went down, but who cares? We're just everybody. Just this month, my guys, the DNC was caught doing incorrect math while tallying up the votes during the Iowa caucus. And they refused to correct the blatantly incorrect math because the votes were counted on what they call a legal document, and changing the incorrect math in the voting results on a legal document would be, quote unquote, damaging to the integrity of the process. What am I supposed to tell you? Our politicians don't really represent us. Our news media talks down to us. We're constantly fighting over menial shit like South Park, and our institutions are becoming so blatant with their corruption that it begins to feel like, yeah, what can we do? What is it that we could possibly do? Why care if we can't do anything? So I guess to close this video up, we shouldn't blame a cartoon for making an entire generation of kids and teenagers and adults apathetic and careless. We should blame the circumstances that we have found ourselves in that have made apathy so palatable in the first place. And I think that's really all I have to say today. Look at that, huh? I'm done. Before I go, remember I'm doing the Snark Tank every week with Tom Sweeney and Some Black Eye. If you're into conversational comedy podcasts, maybe check that out. It's fun. We have a lot of fun. And the support has been amazing, so thank you all for that. It's really cool. In the description, you'll find links as I list them to Twitter and Patreon and t-shirts, for instance. Leave a like and subscribe for more diatribes. It'd be really damn swell if you rang on that bell. I'm glad for the view you so graciously gave. We love you. Be careful, be good, and behave.